So I'm sure most of your sub boxes are filled with Galaxy Note 10 videos, and if you're disappointed with the announcement, I wouldn't be surprised because I am. In fact, if you're interested in our coverage, you can check it out right over here. Now, in that video, I mentioned how cheaper phones or lower priced phones are starting to become really good. And I think that's where the Galaxy A50 comes in. Now, the launch price for the A50 was $350, but you can pick this phone right now for as low as $270. That's right, $270. Now, when you hear of that price, you'd think that it would come with a cheaper build quality, terrible display, underwhelming camera performance, poor battery life, less features compared to its flagship sibling like the Galaxy S10, and more. But having switched to the Galaxy A50 for a little while now, I'm actually really impressed with this phone in terms of what it offers for the price. And it also made me realize how cheap phones are getting good, and that quote is becoming very popular these days. So allow me to walk you through my experience using the Galaxy A50 right after this.
What would you like? So I'm looking for a gaming headset with a bit of everything, but not overkill. Something that folds on your neck. Sure. How about the light frame without excessive clamping force? Yes. Comfortable ear cushions with proper internal padding? Excellent, I will take. The cable and the microphone are removable. Fine, this is the one. Multi-platform compatibility with virtual surround sound dongle available. Can I just take one? And the sound quality you'll be satisfied with. So the new Cooler Master MH751 and 752 are here to make your gaming experience.
Okay, so the first thing I noticed right after picking up the A50 is just how good it feels in the hand. The back side is made out of plastic, but they've done a really good job replicating a glass back finish like the S10. Now, one of the advantages of having a plastic body is that when you accidentally drop it, chances of it breaking or shattering are very less likely to happen compared to a glass back design. I remember the Note 9 days, folks. It was not fun. Next up is the display, and this is one of the best features of the A50. First and foremost, it's completely flat, so you don't get any curved screens like the Galaxy S10, which is awesome. It also adds a sense of confidence when holding the device, or grip if you want to put it that way. The screen itself is gorgeous. It's 6.4 inches, 1080p Super AMOLED display. The colors are vibrant. You still get those deep blacks, and it felt like I was using a flagship Android device, which is very impressive. I will say that it is slightly larger than the S10. It's actually almost the same size as the S10 Plus, so one-hand operation might be a bit challenging for folks with smaller hands. Samsung decided to ditch the punch hole cutout on the A50 and instead went with a tiny drop-style notch at the top, kind of like the OnePlus 6T and some other phones. It's not really distracting. In fact, if you want, you can hide it through the settings, so that's nice. You only get a single mono speaker at the bottom, and that means you can accidentally block that with your finger, so it could get a little annoying. Now, the sound quality itself is not that great. I certainly experienced some distortions at high frequencies, and it just isn't really the best experience, so I'd highly recommend pairing this phone with a good set of headphones for a comfortable experience. Also, this might seem like a bonus from the S10, but there isn't a dedicated Bixby button on the A50, so that's good. Plus, the volume rockers and the power button are located on the right side. They're easier to reach and the quality of the buttons are on point. They exhibit good tactile feedback, so no complaints there. Now, you can pick up the Galaxy A series in different sizes, but the specs and camera layouts are a bit different depending on each model. It starts with the A10 and then goes all the way up to the A50. Mind you, some of these models are carrier exclusives depending on region, so I'll make sure to leave links to what I can find on Amazon in the description down below at the lowest price. The A50 variant that I have over here comes with an Exynos 9610 octa-core CPU, 4GB of RAM, and 64GB of storage. The good thing is that you can expand that up to 512GB. And guys, this isn't the fastest phone out there. The specs aren't top of the line, and that's to be expected for the price. But keep in mind that specs don't really paint the entire picture. It's again all about that overall experience when using the phone, and having used this for a little over a week, it's actually pretty good. Albeit, multitasking performance is the biggest drawback, and I think that's due to the inclusion of 4GB of RAM, and when you pair that with Samsung's One UI, it does tend to struggle here and there. The in-display fingerprint scanner is also pretty slow when it comes to unlocking the device. I've run into a lot of issues where it just wouldn't recognize my thumb, so I had to rely on the old school pattern unlock method. Now, there is face unlock and it's a bit faster, but it's really not secure, and it's a hit or miss at times. You'd have to be really patient when using the Galaxy A50. Say for instance, if you're someone who's straight up used to cheap phones, let's say a budget of less than $300, and if you don't want to spend a penny more, and if you don't care about apps loading up the instant you tap on them, the A50 won't really disappoint you. But if I were to compare this to the Galaxy S10, you are going to be losing on some features like wireless power share, wireless charging, IP68 water resistant rating. You also lose on stereo speakers, telephoto lens, as well as getting the fastest SoC and the sharpest possible display. So with the A50, what you're really getting is a phone that does a lot of the basic things right. Now, before I get into the camera performance, I do want to quickly talk about battery life. And in one word, it's amazing. So the A50 features a 4000 mAh battery. And when you design a phone with a relatively power efficient CPU, which is the Exynos 9610, 4 GB of RAM and a 1080p display, I was easily able to push this guy to 2 days worth of use on a single charge. I mean, check out that screen on time. It's impressive. So with that out of the way, let's get into those cameras. Now, don't fool yourselves thinking that the A50 comes with a triple camera setup like the S10 and the S10 Plus. That isn't the case. In fact, all you're getting is an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens and a 25 megapixel standard lens. The one at the top is a 5 megapixel depth camera that complements live focus, which is Samsung's version of portrait mode. As for the pictures, I was pretty impressed reviewing them one by one. The fact that they included a wide-angle lens at this price point is very refreshing to see on a phone in 2019. The samples you see here have a good balance of contrast and saturation. You can play around with the wide-angle lens to get some distorted, interesting, and weird-looking images. It certainly lacks detail, and Samsung's post-sharpening effect doesn't really do that much. I should mention that you lose focus control when shooting wide-angle, so that's a bit limiting. The main camera shoots decent photos, but it lacks consistency. You see, this is a wide-angle shot. It's a bit underexposed, but when I switch right over to the main camera, the white balance is off. It's slightly overexposed, and when you have HDR turned on, in some cases, yeah, it doesn't really look that real. If you're patient enough, you can get away with some great shots in daylight. Portrait mode or live focus works pretty well. Again, it's not Pixel 3a good, but if you're a casual user sharing on social media, you'll be fine. Low light performance is pretty terrible, but I expected that. There's just no detail and it's almost similar to the Galaxy S10, so I can't really complain here. But having looked at these samples, what do you guys think? Is it impressive for less than $300? So this is the video test on the Galaxy A50, and guys, as you can see, I can use the ultra wide angle lens on this camera to shoot video, unlike the OnePlus 7 Pro that does not, which is kind of stupid, right?
Yes.
And Mike here is cooking us some delicious dinner. And you can see like the colors are really nice and vibrant. I think the details also...
How's the autofocus?
There. I think autofocus is also really good too. I mean, Samsung's always really good at autofocus with their cameras on phones, so it's really good. I think it lacks a bit of dynamic range because you can see the skies are like kind of
it's really crushing the shadows, it seems like.
Exactly.
It's very contrasty.
All right, so switching to the front-facing camera test on the Galaxy A50, and guys, I'm actually pretty impressed with what this phone can do in terms of video. Now, it tries to expose or tries to compensate for exposure here and there depending on the situation, and as I'm walking you can also get a rough idea on how it looks. I mean, there isn't stabilization with the front-facing camera as far as I can tell, but just, you know, looking at the camera samples as well as the video quality, let me know what you guys think about the camera samples in the comments down below. Oh, also, this is a good test for the microphone as well. Yeah. So I guess this brings me to the conclusion. And guys, I'm really impressed with the Galaxy A50. You see, the biggest forte of this device is that gorgeous display and the battery life. I still can't believe how Samsung was able to implement such a beautiful AMOLED screen at this price point. Now, it's not packed with features like the Galaxy S10, but this phone offers about 50% of that experience for $270. And if you can find it for that cost, great. But if you see these floating around for $350, just do yourselves a favor and spend an extra $50 and pick up the Pixel 3a. The camera performance is pretty good, and I'm happy to see the inclusion of a wide-angle lens. Now, when it comes to actual performance, like using the phone, I keep your expectations low because this isn't a multitasking champ. And when it comes to software and software updates, Samsung phones are really not known for getting the latest and greatest updates, so that is something to keep note of. But I really want to know your thoughts about the Galaxy A50. I mean, if you can pick this phone for $270, would you actually consider doing it? Or would you spend that extra cash and pick up something like the Pixel 3a? There's also this other phone called the Redmi K20 Pro that's been generating a lot of hype right now, so there's that. And of course, we have that Note 10 announcement, which was definitely a slap in the face. But phone market, man, it is what it is. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.